Please listen to the legal disclaimer at the end of this video. Good afternoon, this is Boiler talking to you from what we jokingly call the bunker. It's just an extra bedroom with a bunch of crap in it. So what I want to talk to you today about are the 3 consumer laws that may or may not affect you, but that every American should most likely be aware of if they're dealing with collectors or credit issues. So the main law is the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, and the second law that I wanted to talk about is the FCRA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and then the last federal law I want to talk about is the Telephone Consumer Practices Act, the TCPA. So I wanted to, at a super high level, talk about what the differences are. I'm not going to go into a lot of details. Those will come in subsequent videos. So anyhow, as I go through my videos, I just kind of wanted to talk at a super high level so that you understand the differences of the laws, and then you can drill down and see what violations you may or may not have with collectors or with creditors. So the first law that I wanted to talk about is the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the FDCPA, and what that dictates is how it's a federal law that explains how collectors can interact with you. Pretty simple. If, for example, if they call you and use a racial slur, that's not all right on many levels, but it is a violation of the FDCPA, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, so you would have a violation there. So it's really how they interact with you, and I would encourage you to read that law. It's pretty simple to read. It's not a bunch of legalese, and it's not 400 pages long, and you don't need a law degree to understand it. It's very simple, and it's written for the consumer, and it's understandable by consumers. So check that one out. The second one I wanted to talk about is the FCRA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and that is about your credit report. It's related to your credit report, how people can be on your credit report, and the duty of the credit reporting agencies to fix problems and to deal with issues and how they report things. So that one is strictly credit reports, and so for example, if you owe Sears $1,500.38, odd number, but say that's what you owe them, and they have on there that you owe them $3,600.22, then that's wrong. So it is the responsibility of the credit reporting agency to remove it if you can prove that. So that's the FCRA. And the last federal law that I talk a lot about is the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, and that deals with, obviously by the name you can tell, it deals with phone calls and how they can call you and when they can call you, and if they need express consent, those type of things. So that's really the 3 laws. The last law, the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, quite frankly, I don't really have all that much experience with, because when I started suing debt collectors, they quit calling. They just didn't seem to want to talk to me quite as much. So I haven't had a collection call in maybe 2 years. So anyhow, there's a database that you can get on called WebRecon, and if you're on WebRecon, it's because you've sued a collector. And if you're on that database, it's my theory that they won't call you because they know they're going to get sued. So if you don't like to get called, you might want to figure out how to get on that database by suing a collector. That's how you get on that database. So those are the 3 federal laws. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that the FDCPA usually has a mirrored state law. So if you live in, I'll just pick out a state, North Carolina, there's the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act that covers you, and then there's also most likely a North Carolina law that sometimes they're almost word for word the exact same law. So you can use both those laws at the same time in a subsequent Uncut CreditRage. The third one, I'm going to talk about how you can use both of those. Sometimes there's some wording in there that makes it sound like you can't use both of them, where in reality you really can. So anyhow, check your local laws. So if you want to figure out if North Carolina has a version of the FDCPA, you can Google North Carolina FDCPA, and it will most likely bring it up on Google. I live in Colorado. There is a mirror law, and you just have to read it again. And you know, like I said about the FDCPA, your state law is probably very similar in that fact that it's very easy to read. So check it out. The FDCPA is very easy to read. The FCRA is not so easy to read, and the TCPA is not so easy to read. Your local law is probably pretty easy to read. So do a little bit of research. My goal is to have one video a day for a week out there, so I should be putting more meat behind what I'm talking about. And this is the second CreditRage Uncut, and the first one, which I haven't recorded yet, is just going to be an introduction to me and how I got in the predicaments that I was in and how I got out of them, and you know, just kind of explain that to you so that you understand who I am and where I'm coming from. If you have any questions about this video or any other video that I've done, feel free to email me. My email address is boiler@notlegaladvice.org, and my website is notlegaladvice.org. So I'm going to have a video a day out for the next week, and then I start a different job, so I'm going to be shaved and clean cut after that, but I'm just not sure I probably can't do a video a day. So while I'm unemployed for the next week, I'm going to crank these out, and appreciate you watching. Again, shoot me some questions if you have them. Thanks. Bye. This is the legal disclaimer. While the information on this site deals with legal issues, it does not constitute legal advice. The materials in this video and related websites are provided for informational purposes only and do not constitute legal advice. We do not advise on the application of law to an individual's specific circumstances. Although we go to great lengths to make sure our information is accurate and useful, we recommend you consult a lawyer if you want professional assurance that our information and your interpretation of it is appropriate to your particular situation. There are no lawyers in this video or on the notlegaladvice.org family of websites. The contact information for this video is notlegaladvice.org, that is the main blog, nlapublishing.org, that is the main book site. The email address is boiler@notlegaladvice.org. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me. I'd love to hear from you.